We bring in our panel to discuss the Nvidia earnings, the trade, the outlook. Joe Tigay, portfolio manager of the Rational Equity Armor Fund, and Sarah Kunst, the managing director at Clio Capital. Sarah, what were your thoughts here? I mean, the big picture is that earnings beat, data center revenue came in a bit light. We have a buyback and Blackwell chip heading to China. Those were a few of the headlines that maybe that are grabbing folks' attention. What were your takeaways from NVIDIA?
I think that NVIDIA is a good company, and I think that it was a solid earnings. They have a lot of headwinds right now. They still have this sort of 15% kickback to DC hanging over them that they haven't yet had to quite nail down. And so I think that they are continuing to do really well. People say that a little bit of that buy-off and softness is because of the data centers. I think a large part of it is just that people have had an incredible couple of years with NVIDIA, and I think some people are kind of getting out at the top.
I see. What do you think, Joe? What do you say?
Yeah, it was a fantastic quarter for a fantastic company, continuing to beat top line, bottom line. So they continue to produce. I do think there is some cause for concern, seeing their data center not quite meet their expectations. But that said, it was just a fractional miss. Now, I think the bears are the people that are getting out, people that are pushing the stock lower, are saying, hey, this is the growth story. They need to beat on this metric in order to justify this price. So it does make sense. But the flip side is, hey, this is just about China. They missed very, very fractionally, still having 40% growth in the data centers, which is absolutely tremendous growth. And we're still seeing companies across the board of the S&P 500 continue their capital expenditures, continue to expand in their data center businesses. So I think the narrative is that this stock in this data center world is not going anywhere anytime soon.
And when I spoke with an analyst who talked about the quarter being a good one, but that the addressable market was huge, and that was somewhat reassuring. Also, the hardware and software, that it's a complete rackable ecosystem, and that it's not just a chip. NVIDIA is a whole ecosystem, and there's nothing like it. Sarah, what would you say to something like that?
It is mostly a chip, and that's not a bad thing. Yes, they do have other lines of products, and that is great to see them sort of dog fooding their own chip in those things. But at the end of the day, the thing that makes this company so special are their chips and how far ahead of the competitors those chips are. So while they are not just a chip company, it's a little bit like saying that Apple isn't just a device company. That certainly is the vast, vast majority of why we're excited.
And Joe, when we see stock picks or price targets above $200, many of them, do you think it has that upside potential? I've also seen positive, calls on AMD too. But does it have that upside potential to go to the 200 plus mark?
I do, and I think it'll get there with or without China. China just adds a little bit of a urgency to it, adds a little more immediacy to it. But yes, absolutely, I do. I think this is still a growing story. The data center is still a growing story, and it's not a story that once these data centers are kind of built, they're going to be done with. It's going to be something where there's just a continual cycle. We are currently on the Blackwell chip. Once, maybe in a couple of years, NVIDIA will be onto their next chip, which is a little bit better than that. So I think we're in a continual cycle of needing to upgrade these PCs, these chips again and again. So yes, NVIDIA just is ahead of the game. They continue to innovate and continue to be on top of their game in the chip world. So the story is there, the price target is there, and I think $200 is very feasible.
And thank you for that. And Sarah, when we look at Sam Altman and Jensen Huang, you said you're listening to what the CEOs are saying. What are the CEOs saying?
With Sam Altman, we've seen a bit of hey, maybe AI is a bubble. He has a very different business model, and I think that things like Google's Gemini are very much coming for it. But you're starting to see sort of people pull back the idea a little bit that there's going to be unlimited growth forever, or that we're going to see an immediate and intense amount of revenue come out of a lot of these big tech companies' AI expenditures. And so I don't think that changes sort of the core value prop of what NVIDIA is doing, but it does mean that overspending, for chips that you don't quite need just yet might fall a little bit out of favor.
All right, and Joe, what do you think here? I mean, Nvidia is a name you think has upside potential to 200 plus. AMD, is that also on your radar as a potential, sort of strong buyer winner in the future?
Yeah, there's a lot of other names too that are going to be in this data center world. You also have to power these data centers, so there's some energy names, utility names really, that are in this world. So this story is absolutely out there. AMD is out there. The memory story is out there. The networking component of it is out there. So it's a big infrastructure story, which I'm following very closely. Nvidia isn't alone. I'm expecting more upside. And to me, Nicole, just really quickly, the only thing that really tripped this up for me is just a slowing economy. If the economy does slow down, this whole narrative will slow down too, and it will be pretty volatile if that does happen. That said, I don't really see that in the cards in the immediate future.
And thank you for that, Joe. And then, Sarah, what about names like Taiwan Semi and Intel? You're watching those. Why?
I really like Taiwan Semiconductor. It's one of my favorite companies in this space. What they do with the fabs is just really, really, really hard to replicate. We might see some shifts from the Intels of the world to get into some of those businesses with this now government intervention in their company. But the reality is it takes time. It takes skilled labor. It's not happening overnight. And I think that Taiwan Semi is just really well priced for what it does. And I don't really understand why more people aren't jumping all over that.
All right, thank you both. Joe Tigay from Rational Equity Armor Fund and Sarah Kunst from Clio Capital. Joe, Sarah, wonderful to see you both. Thank you.